Hey guys, welcome to Finally Clicked, the podcast where we discuss business, leadership, and personal development. My name is Margaret Smith, and I'm the Director of Operations for Pickett Street Properties, a real estate team out of Bothell, Washington. And I'll be here every week with our owner and team leader, Jesse D. Moore. We'll be digging into concepts and ideas that have helped us both personally and professionally. And you'll also get a chance to hear from local and national experts that we know provide massive value to get to the point where it all finally clicks.
I will introduce. Hello, everybody. This is Jesse Moore and Margaret Smith with Finally Clicked.
Finally Clicked. Is that a new voice for the day?
I just like to bring a little energy to the
I
conversation.
think we are both jacked up and ready to go this day.
Well, I poked a bear, apparently.
You didn't poke a bear.
I poked a bear. I asked you a
bears.
question, and then you just went off.
I'm ready. Let's attack it.
Someone said your voice is like whale song on the podcast.
Wow. Just like Dory.
At times, subtle and distant, as if leagues away.
I'm going to try to keep it
chortling, as if bubbles are floating to the surface.
And then I come back, and then I fade, and then I come back. It's like, ooh. I'm just going to try to keep it all focused, the same level, you know.
Well, you're fired up today, so it's just going to be like, turn your volume down, because Margaret's going to be...
Yeah. Cranking it in your ears, people. We're talking some big stuff today that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, but if you said our topic to the wrong person, they'd be like,
boring. Sorry, but this is what makes the world go round.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
We'll get there soon enough.
Yeah.
Let's
just take our time.
Let's
just ease into it.
Meander.
Like a cloaked cat. Let's meander into it.
Let's meander like a cloaked cat. You got an affirmation from someone who speaks your language from this podcast? Like, someone reached out to you and they heard you talk funny and they heard my response to it, and you don't know what I'm talking about?
Oh, well, if you're talking about that person, it was just not just the podcast, not like my funny language, but how I talk about systems and admin. She said, "You talk like me. I've never met anyone that talks like me." And I said, "Oh my God, this is the best moment of my life."
Two DOOs wandering in a desert find each other.
Well, she specifically was like, the way I talk about the relationship and you talk about it with between the admin and the executive, and how it's not an us versus them thing, but it's about the team, and then just how I talk about people in general. She really connected with. So I was like, I love it, because I agree. When you find someone who understands what you mean when you talk about systems or processes or team building or recruiting. Oh, it's so it's such a relief not to have to translate, when they just get it. That's amazing.
That's a little bit like when I do a listing presentation to people and I ask them if they know what search engine optimization is.
Yeah.
And it's
how often do people say yes?
35 to 40% of the time.
That's more than I thought.
But it's always a relief when they say, yes, I know what that is, because then I don't have to explain it. Because trying to explain search engine optimization to someone who doesn't...
Although I think you do a good job of it in your presentation. Because you helped my parents understand.
Man.
My mom knows the basics of SEO, but I agree. It is like when I could hear
just imagine presenting to somebody who thinks like Facebook is a Russian bot, and you're trying to explain some other digital terms to them. They don't trust it at all.
No, nothing.
It's no fun. I don't like it.
I agree. I do agree.
They're like, how do you make the post go to the top?
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
And no.
How was your morning today?
Fair to Midland.
Okay.
Nice day.
Yeah.
I sat out on my porch and drank my coffee this morning.
Oh, it's that time of year.
I took my stepson to school, and I came back so I could have a cup of coffee.
Good for you.
Silence, with no other people in my house. And I sat on my front porch and drank my coffee.
Was it as good as sitting on my porch?
I love sitting on my porch. Your porch is ridiculous. Your balcony. We were at Margaret's house yesterday for a team event. The team event was we wanted to work somewhere pretty, so we went to Margaret's house, and Margaret,
it was so nice to have you guys
sits
there.
on a hill, and she, on her second story duplex, you see the tops of trees and mountains, and it's a beautiful sight. Yeah, so it was nice. I mean, but you don't have to go shaming my porch.
No, you have a beautiful porch. I'm just saying it's
yes,
that time
you have
of year.
a nice porch. We get it, Margaret, okay? Doesn't mean that other people don't have nice porches. I don't have a hammock anymore.
No?
I mean, I have it. It's in the garage, but it's not up anywhere. I don't have anywhere to put it.
Oh, really?
I no longer have the lifestyle where I have trees that close together.
Wow.
And that's a luxury I don't afford myself right now. Now, when I build the covered deck, it'll have a place for a hammock.
Good. Yeah. Because the hammock time with Jesse has been...
Well, no one knows what you're talking about.
I know. It's been over a year.
So I used to have a social media event.
I mean, that was like the one event you had.
The only thing I like to contribute to social media is at the end of the day, before I even went into my house, I'd go to my hammock and I'd lay in my hammock, kind of gather my thoughts, and then I'd share them with the world of whoever was there. It was very random.
Yeah.
It was spinning the wheel of Jesse for sure.
Yeah, I liked it.
But now you have a hammock, and I feel like you're letting everybody who believes in hammock time down.
Oh, wow. Well, I hadn't even thought of it because nobody else really uses it besides me, so I should probably
Isn't that amazing and perfect? Do you want random butts in your hammock?
No, I don't. I love my hammock.
And Dan's dirty butt. He's just, he's just eating
He's a boy.
Quesadillas. You don't want him eating quesadillas in the hammock.
No. I might have to start doing some hammock time.
Okay, we're talking about nothing. We should probably get into it.
Oh, well, we will get into it. Our people are worried. Don't be
Margaret
worried.
was so fired up, she spilled water all over herself.
I'm down my whole dress. I look like I've drowned something or other. Rat. Yeah, okay. We have a couple different topics we want to talk about today. Some of them, we recorded a podcast at my house yesterday, and it turned out a little long and loopy. So
and we didn't have professional equipment.
No, and I love that.
And
so we might drop some of that in here just for funsies.
Jesse might have had one too many mimosas. So.
But I still love some of the topics we talked about. So,
all right. Do we want to start off the way I started off yesterday?
Yes.
So there was an article in Inman News about a proposal for Keller Williams profit share being taken away. Essentially, for context, Keller Williams offers a profit share program if you're a real estate agent with them. And essentially, if you encourage other real estate agents to come over to Keller Williams, then they give you a small percentage of their production. It's a little complicated to go into great detail. But let's just say that some people easily pay for their cap, which could be, $18,000 or more a year. Some people make tens of thousands. Some people make hundreds of thousands. Some people make millions of dollars a year with this program. And how it was devised and marketed was that this is something that once you vest, if you were with Keller Williams for 3 years, you'd be fully vested in it. It would be, what's the word? Inheritable. Yeah. You could pass it on. And even if you left the company, you'd continue to collect profit share. And essentially, no one would take it away from you after 3 years. And so there's a lot of agents at Keller Williams now. We're the largest brokerage in the world by agent count. So there's more Keller Williams agents than anywhere else. And in the face of competition, this is becoming a topic of conversation. That there's some people, and I know specifically, I know some people, they're friends of mine, who moved to EXP, and then they made a big production about donating their profit share check from Keller Williams every month. And they're basically using it as a recruiting campaign for their new brokerage that they're with. And what Inman News reported was that the International ALC would be proposing that profit share no longer be something that doesn't go away, but that instead that if you convert to another brokerage, that it goes away, that they take profit share from you. And I just have to say I'm against this 1,000%. And I hope Gary's against it 1,000%. I just think that whatever inducements you had, I just think you should be true and honorable to your word. And if you get people here by saying, hey, these are the terms, and it'll never be taken away from you once you vest, then I expect it. That's what I expect.
Yeah.
And if you change it on me, there's a lot of terrible names for that type of person that are culturally not appropriate, right? But essentially, you're giving a gift and then you're taking it back. And I just think it's the wrong way to run an organization. I'm just a little guy in Bothell, and it probably doesn't matter to anyone. But it makes it harder for me to recruit to Keller Williams if the incentive, they change the incentive and make it like, it kind of feels like like a schoolyard game. Like you took one of my marbles, and because you didn't ask for it before recess was over, I get to keep it.
So it's
or
not
whatever.
official
You get to keep
yet,
it.
right?
What's that?
It's just being talked about. It's not official.
Yeah. So someone, I mean, this is kind of WikiLeaks type of stuff where someone got a copy of the slide that's going to be presented to the International ALC.
And so it didn't even intend to be talked about yet?
I mean, I think it came from a private meeting at KWRI.
And now it got to Inman.
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you think the chances are of it going through, actually? Or do you think, are people talking about it in the agent groups
It depends.
on Facebook?
I think it depends on listen, I would be happy to vote against it.
Yeah.
I hope everyone does.
I think it's a huge mistake.
Well, here's the thing, though.
Huge. And
For
with everything happening.
You just got to be careful. In a company this big, this is the largest real estate company in the world, as far as residential sales. If because it's a big company, there's intimidation, there's loyalty issues, there's lots of things that can happen, and it gets very political. But I would hope everyone would take a stand and say, hey, this is dumb. We don't need to do this.
No.
Like, it's petty. And I understand, like, you want people that are loyal to Keller Williams to benefit from the profit share program.
Yeah.
But you know what? If people leave and
have an attitude and mock it, whatever.
Hey, come back anytime. Like, the door should always be open to people that leave. That's how it should be. And people shouldn't be muscled to stay. And they shouldn't be coerced to stay. And I think when you contribute to somebody, and maybe it's, I probably average around $1,000 a month from profit share. And I like passive income. I like set it, forget it. I don't have to do much to get that money, hardly anything. And so, I plan my life and I go on, and I just wish, it just drives me nuts that I was sold a bill of goods and then afterwards. I've been with Keller Williams for 11 years, 11 years now. And I've contributed in a lot of ways to this company. And if I ever leave, I will have left Keller Williams a better company than had I never been here at all. And I would hope that if I ever left to pursue other interests, I'd be welcome back. And I just think this is unfortunate.
I'm super confused that the idea has even been proposed. Because I think it's one of the things that people talk about with Keller Williams that a lot of people don't understand from the outside. They think pyramid scheme. They think all sorts of weird things about profit
I think
share.
it complicates the conversation unnecessarily.
Yeah. But it's one of the coolest aspects of Keller Williams. And so I'm shocked that it's even being talked about. I think it's really small and petty thinking, which is not the way Gary Keller is all about thinking in thinking as a generous person, thinking as I forget what the term is.
Magnanimous.
Help me out here. Not scarcity minded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Abundance mindset.
Yeah, and I think this is scarcity minded.
Totally agree with that. If it's an abundance, if we come from an attitude of abundance, then there's enough money to go around, and there's enough, and we can. It's just, I totally agree with you. It is a scarcity mindset move, and I just think that worries me. Yeah. And in fact, I'm going to be so bold to say that the fact that this is being considered worries me about what else could come down the line. I agree. Because this seems like foundational. Yeah. For Keller Williams. It is foundational. And you're changing a pillar of your business. Yeah. And you're expecting 188,000 agents to jump on board.
Gonna have to sell that real hard.
Like, I don't know. I think there's an argument to be made. I think people always say, in fact, I think they're giving in to the worst demons, which is, as Keller Williams was being built, the idea of profit share was railed against by competitors, saying that it wouldn't be there forever. That as they once they got to be the big guy, then that would go away. Oh, wow. And it kind of seems to be true.
I hope not. I hope they rethink it.
Are you getting profit share yet?
No, not officially yet, but I do have one producing agent that I just added to the office in the last 6 months who's already So he'd be my first one.
Nice.
Yeah. I have a couple admin under me, I think, but no, I mean, for me as a recruiter and as an admin, I think it's an awesome opportunity to be able to be offered that as well. So I was looking forward to building my downline.
Yeah.
Totally.
Anyway, if anyone...
That was a good topic. Yeah.
I just think it's
I'd love to hear what people think about it. So
and awful.
Comment on this post on our
But maybe I'm
not
not seeing something, you know?
Yeah, maybe there's something we don't know.
There's a perspective I don't have.
I don't know. Love to hear it.
But it doesn't seem like a good idea to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, business. We've had a lot of conversations lately about just business in general, not just real estate, but like, what do we want to do about other ventures and things outside of real estate? So it seems like it's the time to do that.
Well, there's a need for processes and systems everywhere.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's what we're finding out.
Uh-huh. I didn't realize how valuable of a skill that was to have. I'm starting to realize.
Well, someone came to me recently and asked for my help, and is running one of his businesses, and it's a product I don't know that much about. Like it's a totally different industry.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to learn a lot from the ground up. But the main thing that they need is processes and systems. Like I could see that right away. That maybe I wouldn't have to learn everything or know the terminology because all I can see is they need processes and systems desperately. And I'm like, well, we can do that. We know how to do that. So it's figuring out a way to, I think the conversation for me is always, I think this is hard for me. I think there's a tug of war with me all the time in my mind between like the one thing type of mindset where you put all your energy and focus into one thing and making sure that happens. And also on the flip side, being diversified.
Yeah.
Because real estate's changing and I don't like how it's changing. And I'm not someone who's adverse to change. Like my personality profile says, let's change things up.
Yeah.
But in this industry with things changing, it's not helping us.
Yeah.
Like
we haven't changes.
Not many people are figuring this out.
Yeah.
And I think that what I mean by that is overall, if you look at the history of consumers in our industry, there was a time when people bought a new house every 3 to 6 years. But you know, that's easy to do when houses cost $50,000 or $60,000 or $100,000, $200,000. In Seattle, the average price point is probably around $750, and quite honestly, that's a starter home. And so if you buy a house for $750, you're not gonna be like turning and burning that again in 3 years.
No, yeah.
So affordability has really changed the game. Affordability, population density, a lack of geography, lack of buildable land, really means that when people buy a house, they're gonna be there for 7 to 12 years. Yeah. And so effectively, the amount of time people stay in a home has doubled, which has really affected our industry.
It's changing.
There's not as much inventory going on the market. There's not as much sales, period, happening. And so you either have to get your unfair share, which is what Gary Keller would say. And I'm all for that, but I'm also for not being a travel agent when Expedia comes out. Yeah. I don't want to be the last Mohican selling real estate. When we get disrupted to a level that I have to go drive a semi truck or something, and so I want to look ahead now, and I want to be diversified now. I want to have other businesses now. Yeah. And
I am wondering how long some of these single agents or people that have been in the business for only 3 or less years are going to be around, because I was just thinking about this morning. There's a lot of people that still don't know what they're doing. And so, like when I had a friend reach out to me the other day asking about a CMA for her house, a market analysis, I was like, I'm so glad that you reached out, because people ask me all the time, like, how do you afford to buy yourself, even in Everett? And I said, look, there's a lot more options than you realize. You just have to talk to someone who knows what they're doing, like you or Cody Touche, and has some creativity. So I'm just wondering if there's going to be a flood of agents that leave the industry, because I think we have an opportunity still, at least in the next 5 years, to take more market share for people that know what they're doing, like Pickett Street in particular.
Well, we're getting to that in the Seattle market. I think we're getting to the point where expertise is going to be necessary.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons for that, in fact, this brings us to another topic of conversation randomly. Redfin is a brokerage that's based out of Seattle. And they're not in every market, but they're in many of the large metropolitan markets. And they're
just in the West Coast primarily.
They focus, Seattle's their hub.
Yeah.
So from there, they've built out. And I think they went to Chicago and Boston pretty quickly as well. But they're definitely probably more predominant on the western half of the U.S. And Redfin CEO is Glenn Kelman, who was one of the execs at Expedia. And so he got out of Expedia, made lots of money on Expedia, and then took that money and invested in real estate and formed Redfin. And his idea with Redfin was to change the industry. He very much wanted to go to war with real estate agents. And I'm not being hyperbolic here. Literally, I've talked to Glenn Kelman, and I've seen him speak several times, and I've asked him the question, why not just develop software and give it to real estate agents?
Yeah.
And his response was he didn't want to sell arms to the terrorists. So he very much has a negative aspect of real estate agents. He thinks we get paid too much. He used to think we got paid too much. Since then, so what they did is they built their model on discounts, giving the buyers back half the commission, discounting their listing service down to 1%. So over time, what Glenn Kelman realized is that the discount wasn't the value proposition. The discount wasn't why people came to use Redfin. The reason why people came to use Redfin is they had the best software in the industry.
Yeah.
We're talking like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago, they had the best software in the industry. And that was way ahead of everybody. And they're the leader of the pack in most everybody's opinion when it comes to real estate search engine, and then the amount of information you get and the things that you can have access to on a consumer level. So I love that part. I love the consumer getting more information and being better informed. I'm a fan of that.
Yeah.
They're just a little bit militant in their hatred of real estate agents. And over time, Glenn Kelman even realized that the discount model didn't work. Not only did it not work, they didn't make enough money.
Yeah.
So he realized that the discount model wasn't necessary. They still do it. And now what they've just announced and what they're launching is a Redfin buyer service where you can have the option to list your house for, I'm guessing, the same 1%. I'm not sure. And then you have an option to not pay a buyer's agent commission, and consumers can buy it directly through Redfin, bypassing a buyer's agent. And the problem with this business model is in our current industry, the way our industry works currently, the multiple listing service is a cooperative listing service, meaning that you have to, if you have a listing, you have to share it with everybody. And so the only way they can do this is if they don't put their listings on they can't put their listings on the MLS under this program. They would have to make it basically a pocket listing and sell it that way. So that seller is not getting the mass exposure of the multiple listing service, which is what everybody's trained to look at. Yeah. Everybody gets a feed from this MLS. And so that means that, when you're going to kellerwilliams.com or Redfin currently, that you're getting all the active listings. Yep. Now, if Redfin, I haven't investigated this well enough. I don't think our MLS will let them do this.
Well, that's what exactly I was just thinking. Like after our conversation about this yesterday, is essentially, are they making a move to try to be more predominant over the MLS?
Well, let's put it this way: if you're Amazon of real, like let's say you're the Amazon of real estate, everybody uses you, right?
Oh yeah.
Then you can kind of do what you want.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if they had enough traffic, if they got a majority of all the traffic in the world for real estate, then they could do this successfully.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't have that. And the MLS isn't going the way our MLS works. They're not going to be able to put some listings on the MLS and some not on there.
Yeah.
The agreement literally says you have to put every listing on the MLS.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how that's going to work in Seattle.
Because to make it fair, it's got to be accessible to everybody in one easy.
And I think other,
Again, it's a system.
MLSs have the same rules, so I'm a little confused how they're going to pull this off. But I also don't think it's going to work.
I just don't think Redfin's going to be around for much longer.
No, listen, I think Redfin, they've lasted through the last housing recession.
Your comment to him was right, though. It was the technology.
No, and even he knows that. Like, he knows that his software is what made them successful.
Yeah.
Now he knows that. But he is really, this has been his goal from the beginning, is to really, how do I take the money out of the hands of real estate agents, and how do I give it back to the consumer?
Somebody put an article out on Instagram and on Facebook today that this guy I follow, and I can't remember where he's from, but I think he's in Washington, but he did an article about, hey, we pay attorneys for what they do for us. We pay lawyers.
It was basically, hey, when you get in a lot of trouble, you get an attorney.
Yeah.
And when you get really sick, you go to a doctor. Yeah. And so
it reminded me of your script that you use about the dentist and having people that will meet you between the hours of 9 to 5, because that's when we go to the dentist. Well, it's the same thing that's why upping our profession, like you talk about often, to that of the status of a lawyer or a doctor. I mean, oh my God, this is the biggest asset you have. Why would you just hold it off to someone
I want to clarify my feeling on this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not going to work because I'm old and codger who doesn't believe in innovation. I'm just saying that what I'm really seeing, like, we're thriving right now. And I think one of the reasons we're thriving is because we've leaned in on the expertise part of it.
As a team, you mean?
Yes, we've leaned in.
We're lean, and we've leaned in, and we are.
And because because of that, you get a different experience with us than you do with that cousin who sells 5 homes a year.
Yes.
Or whoever.
Yeah.
But the point is that this is what we do, and we do it at a really high level. And if you trust us, it'll go well. Not only will it go well, but you'll make more money and you'll have a better experience.
Yeah.
And we're proving that over time. And so it's great. I like diversity in service. I like that there is a Redfin that for certain people, they can do this.
Yeah.
They feel like they're competent enough and they can manage it and they want to.
I would never work on my own teeth. Ever.
Well, this really is a disservice to the buying public. And that's what I want to have a conversation about, is what they're doing. If you want to buy a home right now and you use an agent, it costs you $0.
Yep.
Okay?
$0
for professional representation.
$0.
And to ensure that someone's looking out on your behalf on not making a mistake and making sure that you dot all the I's, cross all the T's before you buy a house.
That's
because
amazing.
It's buyer beware.
Yep.
And once it's closed, you don't have a lot of recourse for anything. And so what Redfin's effectively saying is it's taking representation away from buyers. It's saying, hey, just do what the seller wants. Here's the terms the seller wants. You can make your offer. Now you're going to professionally negotiate an offer, which here's why this service is good. If you negotiate for a living, knock yourself out. I'm sure you can do a good job. Most people don't negotiate ever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so now they're negotiating with the seller.
Perfect.
I've run into these people all the time, the ones that want to negotiate for themselves, and they end up chasing their own tail because they're so unrealistic that they're out of touch with reality. And so they call me and they're like, hey, I want to make an offer on your listing and I want to make it for $100,000 less, even though it's been on the market for 2 days.
Perfect.
I'm like, pound sand. I don't need to talk to you, right? Like, go away. But they think if they work with a listing agent, they're going to save the money.
Yeah.
And they're such great negotiators that they'll be able to make the seller come down $100,000 or whatever the case is. So I just think buying far and away, this is a disservice to the buying public, and I hope the buying public sees it that way. I have a property that I'm following because I interviewed with them, and then they interviewed with Redfin. Did I talk about this on the podcast yet before?
No.
All right. So I went on a weekend that I had my kids. I got a babysitter. I went and did an appointment, and it went well. They're moving to an area that I know well, and so I talked to them about that, and we hit it off. And then I went back for the second appointment, and it went well. And when I called them, and they said, call us in 3 days. And so when I called them, they said, hey, we're going to go with someone else. And then I asked follow-up questions. And one of the questions was, like, what could I have done better?
Yeah.
And they said nothing except lower your fee. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not possible. And I go, so do you feel like you chose the most competent agent? And they said, no, that would have been you. And I said, okay, did you choose the agent you feel most comfortable with? And they go, no, that would have been you. And I'm like, I'm banging my head against the wall. I'm like, okay,
here, then.
You think I'm the most competent and you're the most comfortable with me.
Yep.
But fee is such a priority to you that you will work with someone who's not competent and you don't feel comfortable with.
Perfect.
Like, I don't know how to rationalize that.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing.
I followed their listing. They listed it for $15,000 more than I said with Redfin.
How are the pictures?
Everything's fine, except for, I'm going to complain about something.
I know you look at those.
I hate it when agents, please take us on a tour. Take us by the hand and lead us through this house, through pictures, okay? And sequence it that way.
Telling a story, yeah.
They go, no, these guys, they're inside. They go outside. They're back inside. We're outside now. It's like we're in. Here's the outside of the house. Here's the kitchen. No, here's the living room. Here's the family room.
The bathroom.
We're outside. There's a deck. We're back inside. There's the kitchen.
The brain doesn't follow that.
There's the bedroom. We're back outside again.
The consumer's not going to jig.
It's like someone batch upload photos without sequencing them or anything.
Beautiful.
Any thoughts, right? So that's their listing.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's still on the market.
Sold. Yeah.
Still on the market in a hot market in a hot area. Like their home would have sold the first weekend with us.
Yeah.
I promise you.
So this is the part that I never thought about before I was in real estate, and now I can't stop thinking about. They chose to go with that group, that company, because of the amount we were going to charge for commission. That's a normal amount that's average in the industry. You don't want to pay, but you're going to make less money with someone who doesn't know how to negotiate or properly market your home. So overall, you're making less money, but you're paying the less fee. So with us, you pay the fee, but you make more money. Like, it's so basic. That's the part, that's the message that I want to pound into people's heads over and over and over again. So sure, you're going to pay less of a fee. You're also making anywhere from, depends on what your house is like, $1,000 to $20,000 less, depending on what ends up happening, which is luck of the draw, right? Because you're not working with someone who knows how to negotiate, knows how to properly market your home. You're just willing to take that risk, all because you don't want to pay a higher percentage.
And I'm going to complain about something else. So we put 2 listings on yesterday. One of them is cash only.
Yep.
And it's cash only for very specific reasons. And guess what? I posted all the reasons in the MLS. I put it in the marketing remarks.
How many people have called you and not read it?
No, just wait. I put it in the marketing remarks. I put it in the agent-only remarks. And I uploaded the full pre-inspection report so people could see what's wrong with this house.
That's a lot of information.
And then what do I get? Phone calls going, are you sure that they can't get financing on this?
Oh,
yes.
Wow.
Yes, because it's stated in the marketing remarks and the agent-only remarks, and it's in the pre-inspection report, which is uploaded in supplements. Did you see any of those things? Oh, no, I didn't look at the listing.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot. Thanks for calling me. Okay, and guess what? As you listen to this, you've hired this person, okay?
Yeah.
One of you has hired one of these lunkheads to represent you.
That's so sad.
And this is what's wrong with our industry.
I don't like it.
And here's the other thing when it comes to Redfin, and this is something I think about all the time. If I was in the cab lobby 15 years ago, I would hope that I would have had the thought that, hey, everyone's going digital, and there's an opportunity for us to develop an application to make it easier for our clients to find us and for us to find our clients, and where they can track and see how close we are. And we should develop an app to help our business out and to help our consumers. We should adapt for the benefit of our consumers. And they didn't do that. So what happens? Uber comes along. And Uber says, you know what? Are you tired of getting into a gross cab that isn't vacuumed or cleaned? And because they have a monopoly on the industry, you have to use them, and they're annoying, and they don't. And by annoying, I mean like they're not. There's no customer service. They're not trying to talk to you or be friendly or nice.
Yeah.
In fact, you're probably a little creeped out. I bet as a woman, you were creeped out to get a cabbie and a cab and ride with this complete stranger and try to make awkward conversation.
Yeah. Hope that they're going to take you to the right place and hope they're going to take you to not some weird, crazy place.
And so I always think about that. And Blockbuster is another example where basically we saw in my lifetime, I think I saw Blockbuster get born and die. Right?
Yeah,
how many big that's probably a Fortune 50 company at one point. Where they're that big and then they go away that fast because of innovation, because of disruption.
Yeah.
So I get it, man. I've talked to agents about this, and I say the disruption has to come from within. Otherwise, we're gone. And what I mean by that is if the general public does feel like we're being overpaid, we either need to do a better job educating them on why it costs so much to sell your home, or we need to answer that complaint through modified commissions or scalable commissions or packages. We have to be the one that innovates. We can't just go, hey, it's this or nothing all the time.
Yeah.
Because you know why? Because someone's going to come in behind us and say, hey, instead of being limited in every way, here are the options you get to choose. And why is that important? Because it gives control to the consumer.
Yeah.
And once you give control to the consumer, they're going to use you.
Yeah. So true.
And so that's a fear of mine. I think about that and I think, okay, I don't want to be the next Blockbuster. I don't want to be the next cab lobby. I don't. And I believe in innovation and I believe in disruption. And I believe if you figure out a better way to core an apple, then that should be the best way to core an apple, and we should support that. And legislation should support it because it's a benefit to the community. And so the hard part about the Redfin, how I feel about Redfin and this idea and this business model is I understand what you're trying to do, and there's something good in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's fully fleshed out in this idea. And I hope smarter people than I figure out how we can do this ourselves.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does make sense. That was a good segue. Hot topics instead of real talk.
Oh, we need more drops.
Hot topics. I really like that one. Really just brings me back to what we were talking about earlier about systems and processes.
Oh, this is what got you all fired up. You want me to stoke the bear a little bit?
Systems are sexy. I just wrote that down. That's my tagline for today.
Okay.
Stoke the bear.
Whoa.
Whatever you just
Bears
said.
aren't sexy.
Not bears. And you said you want me to stoke the bear.
Poke the bear.
Oh, poke the bear. Poke away.
Stoke the fire. Poke the bear.
Poke the bear.
No, you were all fired up, and then I talked too much. Now I feel like you're...
No, I am fired up. Don't even worry about it. I've been intently listening.
All right. So why are you fired up about systems?
I never really thought they were that sexy or that I could do anything that unique. I just thought it was a way of thinking that was how my brain was wired. Like things got organized in a certain way. I would organize my bedroom when I was like 7 years old with all the little statues and things that I had like in an area. And now I'm starting to realize, and Monique Hellstrom has helped me with this, not a lot of people have this skill. And then it's something to be valued for sure and to understand the value in it. And then I realized when I taught down in Reno, there was an agent there who said, one of the biggest pieces you just cleared up for me is I didn't think in my head or realize there's a difference between a system and a process. You just like turned on the light bulb for me because he's been talking about systems like they're processes and they're not.
So what is the difference?
So a system is like, let's for example take like a database, like it's an entity or something that's a tool. A process is more of a step-by-step guide.
A waterfall.
A waterfall, yes. And there are differences between the two. And what I'm seeing is that agents get really focused, and admin too, human beings get really focused on systems, but don't have a process. And I am really good at both, particularly processes though, is what I'm realizing. Because I have processes for home that keep me sane, that actually make me extremely efficient.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. One example would be people are always surprised at how, this is really basic, but how picked up my room is all the time. And may sound silly, but with as quickly as I run through life between my morning meditation time, going to work, working out, coming back, making dinner. Someone can come into my house at any time and it's fairly clean and picked up. And it's not just because I am a little OCD. It's because my system or my process is going through my house at least like 2 times a day, just randomly picking stuff up, putting it back. Everything has a place. And so my process is when I move into a new place, everything gets a home. And whenever I'm done like using it or whatever, typically it goes back there like the same day. And I do like a clean sweep. And by doing that, then I don't have to go like and dread once a month doing a deep clean of my house.
So I have my bed right now is unmade at home. There's probably 2 different days of clothes on the floor. Yeah, and I get it. And Jill likes it if the bed's made when she gets home. And I think
I don't love making my bed either.
Well, and I realized that kicking my clothes off and leaving there, that's like my one thing I allow myself to do.
I was going to say, yeah, because you don't allow much else.
I don't allow. Everything else is clean in my house. But that's, you know why? It's because I'm on the far side of the bed.
Yeah.
Like I can kick it towards, and you can still not see it, right? But I get it. And I do it's funny, on days where I want to feel more organized or I want to feel better, I make my bed and clean up the room.
Well, that whole little book, Make Your Bed, it's like the first thing you can do in the morning to have success with your day because you've done something. So, but yeah, no, I'm realizing like when we moved offices the first time, we were at Keller Williams Bothell and we moved off site. Someone who was working with us at the time said, wow, Margaret, I told them in the beginning of the day, like, look, you guys, like I have this thing when I move, especially when I move my workplace, I have to get my place set up and I will get it set up the same day, even if I'm up till midnight that night. Because when I situate myself at my desk, I memorize in my head where everything is so I can automatically reach for it and just go. And if I'm not in my workplace, like if I'm working from home, it takes a little bit of energy to kind of reassociate myself and be able to be as efficient. So I set everything. Everything has a place, and it also is in a way I think about like how far do I have to reach for it. This is the shit that goes through my head. How far do I have to reach for it? Which way do I have to turn? What's the most efficient?
Well,
when am I going to turn and face people when they walk in the door?
For those that might be familiar, there's a system of management called lean management, which is
and I actually don't know a whole lot about it.
You should study it
sure
because you would love it.
Yeah.
And effectively, I want to say that Toyota developed it initially, and since then, a lot of manufacturers use it.
Yeah.
But the idea is, it's thinking like that. Like, how do we make sure that factory workers don't have to go, like you can put it within arm's reach instead of making them walk across the factory to get something, because that hurts the efficiency, right? And so lean management is, as they put a car together, it's moving the whole time versus stop, move, stop, start. Like they had more breakdowns and they had more delays when they did that stop-start routine.
Yeah.
And instead they said, what if we just had a moving line that got worked on?
I'm realizing like, oh my God, I knew this about myself my whole life, but I didn't know how I could monetize it. I could go into a factory and make changes. I wouldn't know how to make the changes exactly, like how to do it machine-wise.
Another thing you might want to research is called organizational psychology.
Yeah.
And it's the whole idea about lean management came from that science, like organizational psychology.
I'll have to look it up.
You might look into
that.
So
I'm just wired that way. And I'm also thinking about, like, when we talk about energy with Inman, Can
I give you an example of how I'm not wired that way?
Sure.
And that's why I have you?
Sure.
So a good friend of mine's getting married this summer, and I desperately wanted to go. And I'm also trying to be practical and not not do things I can't afford or not do things that are going to stress me out, right?
Yeah.
And so I waited until I absolutely knew I could afford it before I started looking at booking the trip. And as I speak, it's May, and the wedding's in July. So we don't have a lot of time. And it's in Europe. It's in Prague. So I sat down one day when the kids weren't home and Jill was gone. It was just me, and it was only dependent on me to start researching this. And I couldn't do it.
Why?
Well, I looked up Prague and like what's cool about Prague. And then I looked up, we're going to Amsterdam as well.
Yeah.
So I looked up Amsterdam, but then the sheer weight of all the decisions I was about to have to make kept me from moving forward.
Okay.
Like
analysis
paralysis.
paralysis.
I did analysis paralysis because I'm like, okay, when do we leave?
Yeah.
Oh, it takes like 13 to 36 hours to get there, depending on how you get there.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to be on a plane any longer than I have to, so I have to find the most efficient way to get there.
Yeah.
And then once I figure that out, where are we staying, and then how long do we stay there versus then going to Amsterdam? Like it's way too many questions for me.
Yeah.
And it was debilitating.
Yeah.
And so for whatever reason that day, believe me, I'm an adult. I can figure things out. I know I'm capable of doing it.
Yeah.
But that day I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I just gave up. I just stopped.
Yeah.
And then I waited for a day when Jill was home,
feel energy
where I needed to rely on her a little bit. Where I'm like, hey, I need to lean on you because this is not my forte, and help me think through this because. But
it's a lot of planning.
That's something you do, and
but there's the same thing happens to me though. There's times when I have something that I know I can plan, I know I can do, and yet I'm not in the good place energy wise to do it. So I do the same thing as you. I wait until I have a day, especially when it's something I don't love doing, which is, for example, financial planning. Looking at my bills. I'm trying to get into the habit. I put it on my calendar now every Sunday night. It says something positive, like financial success or like money magic. I think I put on it Sunday night because that is my night where I should sit down for about just a half an hour and review where I've spent my money the last week, where my bills are at, because I have them all on auto pay. Yeah. I started running my personal expenses, was something else I learned from the business. I started running them like we run Pickett Street.
Right.
So I have 5 accounts now. My mom's just like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, look, this works. And 2 checking accounts, one that both my salary checks go into, any cash I get goes into it. My bills are automatically pulled out of it. So then I just pull out what I know I have left over for gas, food, and savings. And so I have that on my calendar now because I will put off, because if there's something unknown in the process, that's where I get analysis paralysis. So I've learned, like I did with the podcast room, the studio, if I just jump into it, I will figure it out. But I have to have the energy and be in the right place to do it.
So I want to explain this to people because it was explained to me at some point, and it wasn't natural for me. What Margaret is referring to on our bank accounts is we have an account that's treated like a savings account. Yeah. It's a reserves account. Try not to touch it. Try to add to it.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely there for when we have a bad month and we need to cover the bills because we don't have enough income. So that's the reserve account. Try not to touch it. Then we have 2 other accounts, and they're checking accounts. We have I'll call it the middle account, and that's kind of a holding account, and money comes and goes from there pretty freely. But we don't pay. It's not transactional. We try not to pay bills out of it, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And the point is we know that all of our income goes into that account. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy to tell how we're doing based by how much money is in that account. If it's low, it means we need more business or we need to pull from savings. If it's high, it means we're doing well and we have money to pay the bills. And then the third account is the transactional account.
Yeah.
Everything gets paid out of that account. And it is, we deposit from the middle account to that.
It's got a flow.
Transactional account. Mm-hmm. So if we need money in there, we just move it from the middle account to there. Mm-hmm. And
the goal eventually is to be able to just move money twice a month.
Right.
Yeah.
So the goal is then all that money goes into the middle account, and then you can move money from there into savings, and then also into the transactional account. Yeah. But it gives you, it's easier to have a snapshot of where you're at.
Yeah.
It helps you understand where you're at just by looking at it. Mm-hmm. And then additionally, it's like I think it limits the amount of money you spend to some degree.
Yeah.
Because there's like governors and controls in place. Mm-hmm. And versus just having one account and everything gets spent out of it.
Yes. So. Yeah, and that's what I've taken into my personal life that I really appreciate. So that's a system example that I'm working on that I'm not totally good with yet, but it's happening. I just thinking of another example is how I set up my kitchen. I literally think about where the plates are, how easy is it to take a plate, to take a silverware, to take baking things, I literally think about where everything is put. And the same with the office. And I think when people come to my office and they're like, it feels good, that's my number one goal is it's got to feel good. Because I want somebody to come in, sit down. They're going to feel so good. They're going to want to start working with us right then.
Well, and people always do say that about our offices.
Yeah, they love the color of the walls. They have the lights. They have the decor. It's happy. And my other number two thought is Sarah and I and all of us at Pickett Street are sitting in there for a number of hours each day. And I want to make sure that it feels like home, like it's our second office. It's our second home, essentially. So, no, I'm big. Systems are sexy, which is why I was super excited this week to release our operations manual officially for sale. I've realized it's probably one of the best systems that it holds our processes for the entire business. And it's one of the most successful that I've helped to build. I'm really proud of it. And it literally gets used, which is a big deal for me. I don't like introducing systems or I do not actually, as the operations manager, I will not release a system or process that I believe will take more work for the agents or for anybody else in the team. I hate doing that to myself. I'm not going to do it to other people. So the Evernote manual is like the Bible, and that's what our agents call it, and they love it. For them to love an operations manual, I think that speaks worlds to it.
Yeah, and so Gary Keller, when he was building Keller Williams, he realized right away that he needed to have a
some sort of a training model,
procedure manual, basically.
Yeah.
And so what he did is he hired someone to video and record what he said and did every day for like a year.
Yeah.
And then they took everything he said and he took that video and they turned that into training manuals.
Mm-hmm.
And then that became the training manuals for Keller Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And we've effectively done the same thing, is we've created videos, screen grab videos about how to do certain processes. If we have a new recruit that joins the team, they can log into the procedure manual and see what's the process for putting a listing on, or what's the process.
That's one of the first things we have people do is part of their first 100 days is just go in and spend some time looking through stuff to get to know us.
And literally, if someone has a question about how we do things, they can log into there and find the answer and maybe a video explaining it.
Yeah.
And so it is a wealth of information. We have not been selling it inside of Washington State just because we wanted to be conservative and not share any processes or systems with possible competitors. Since then, I just feel like there's enough business out there. And
honestly, we teach everything that we talk about in our business, we teach about. And so far, very few people actually do what we tell them to do. So I'm kind of like, you know what? Here's our process. Nobody's going to be able to make it. Nobody will be able to use it like we do because, right, they don't have the same people using the process or the systems. Nobody will use it like Margaret does, like Sarah does, like Jesse or Jessica do. So I'm just like, yeah, it's open to anybody inside or outside Washington State now.
Well, and I just think it is easy to follow. And if you buy it, it's totally worth it if you use it. And that's the only challenge I'm going to make is that anything is only good if you use it.
Yep.
And so if you get this will save you thousands of I'm guessing 1,000 hours of work.
I really should go through and probably count it up an estimate because, the amount that
we're charging for it. But let's just say
it's
at least hundreds of hours of work.
Absolutely.
So instead of you having to create this, you can have ours and then customize it to your business. And it gives you a very good template, a very good skeleton, you get more than that. You get the body and the...
there was a team that bought it about a year and a half ago, and then they had a new admin start. And for some reason, she didn't, nobody told her about it. And she found it about 8 months in, and she was like, oh my God, why was I never told about this? This would have been so helpful. And she's finding it. She's updating it to be more specific to her team. But she was like, this is the best thing. It was just one of the best examples.
Well, and it's one of the few things that I think is acceptable leverage.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that as you build your business, there's things you have to figure out for yourself. Like write your own job descriptions to match your team and to the culture and what you want to do and don't want to do. But when it comes to this, this is just work that's already been done.
Yeah.
That you get to then build on top of. And so...
And for us, these are systems that work that I think are applicable to different businesses, and it's not like it's so specialized to Pickett Street that you're not going to be able to use it for your own business.
So if you're in real estate and you don't have an operations manual that effectively tells everyone in your organization, how to do things your way, we do have that available.
I'll put in a link in the show notes.
Margaret's going to put a link in the show notes.
Yeah. But I think what got me so amped up, I know what got me so amped up this morning before we started this was the lack of systems that other people have in businesses. And specifically today, I was frustrated with the market center because I think in a lot of market centers, the staff are so overworked there's no time to set a foundation. And that's what I spent the first couple of years doing for Pickett Street, was setting a foundation not only for the team but for myself. And so people are reinventing the wheel all around the world constantly where they don't have to. And I hate doing things twice. That's why I always try to get it right the first time, because it drives me nuts to do it twice. And so I'm realizing how frustrating that is for me, because all they need is an operations manual with the basics, and that information could be passed down.
Well, and I'll tell you from a Rainmaker's viewpoint, what the operations manual does is it makes it harder for people to leave. And it makes it easier for them to join.
Oh, sure.
My example of that is our buyer's agent was on another team before she was on ours.
That's a great example.
And now she loves our team, and mostly she just loves the processes and systems that she has access to. I think in the first week
she said something like, "You guys have a system for everything, literally everything." And people, I think the team she was on before and other teams have said this, we have processes, we have systems. We actually really do on Pickett Street. We actually literally do have a process and system. I don't say shit that I don't mean.
And so my point is if you're not sure of the value of this, what I want to say is from a Rainmaker standpoint, having this makes it easier for me to recruit people. Mm-hmm. And once they're here, it helps them want to stay here.
Mm-hmm. So there's massive value.
Because we've done the work. We've done the work. It's there for them.
Yeah.
And they understand the value of it.
And the thing I love about our operations manual in particular that I talk about a lot is the fact that it is an Evernote, which I was not exposed to before I started here. And I talked to people about how we have double screens up, both Sarah and I do in our admin office. And on one screen, the operations manual in Evernote is always open. So because I have a strong dislike of operation manuals. I understand the purpose of them, but what I love and why I'm actually in love and passionate about ours is because we actually use it. And to have it in an online form like that, where you don't have to open up a Word doc and edit it and then print out the page to update your operations manual, it's just constantly being updated. Now that's a living, breathing, cool tool that I can pull up on my phone. I can pull up at home. It's just that is the first time I've ever been in love with an operations manual.
Do you have a living, breathing, cool tool? We do.
That might be the new ad for it. Because I've never actually adored an operations manual. I hate them. I detest them. I think they're worthless pieces of crap that sit on the shelf that you don't normally ever look at again. But this is something I use every day. It's like a friend. I'm just Evernote, what's up? It tells me what to do when I don't even know what to do. It holds all of our passwords. It is by far one of my favorite systems.
I feel like Billy Mays today pitching the operations manual.
Hey, you don't have to buy it. Nobody has to buy it. I'm happy to keep it. Don't buy it. I don't care. But I had several admin that came up to me afterwards, at least 2 or 3 is what I talk about, several, who said, "I'm so glad that you priced it how you did, because it's priced at $3,000. And it's based on the number of hours spent in it." And they were like, "It totally makes sense. It's a valid price." Absolutely. Because they get it. The admin get it. Because they're the ones that are sitting down being told they need to make it in the next 5 months. And it's a huge project to take on with your regular job. To build an operations manual while you're trying to do your daily job, I don't think Rainmakers understand that's an extra job practically that you're putting on top, because you're tracking everything you're doing.
Yeah, I'd really encourage you too, if you are looking for something to do, if you don't have enough work to do, buy the manual and then just start working on it.
Yeah.
Just start updating it and then it'll give you lots to do. I promise you.
Plenty to do, and also just a really great foundation to build from. You don't have to think about how it's set up. The way my brain operates, I tell people too, I've organized Evernote to match Dropbox. So Evernote is where we keep our processes and the how-to. Dropbox is where we keep documents. That's another important difference that agent in Reno was like, "Oh my God, that makes so much sense." Dropbox is where we upload photos, documents, blah, blah, blah. Evernote, you can do that, but it doesn't make sense to me to have it in 2 different places, because you don't want to duplicate so much information that people are running all over the place looking for stuff. So, I can't be more in love with it. So systems are super sexy, and I fully own that I am good at it.
Are you going to put that on your dating profile?
I am. I'm going to put it on my Hinge app.
Systems are super sexy.
Systems are sexy, and if you don't like them, that's okay.
And then can you imagine the private messages you'll be getting?
Oh, my God.
They'll be
I'll get a whole bunch of engineers probably.
"I'm really good at Excel."
Really there actually is one guy who put that in his app the other day, and so I messaged him and said, "What kind of Excel spreadsheet did you develop today?"
Oh, talk dirty.
Yeah, and I'm actually not a big Excel fan. Sarah loves Excel more than I do, but this guy was like, "I actually did develop one today. That was really cool." Oh, God.
I think you should do it. I think you should say,
I'm definitely going to think about the name for this podcast, and Systems Are Sexy might be the subtitle. We talk about a lot of different things on this episode, though. Man, I mean, do we want to hit the FHA 203K loan? Because you made a really good comment. No,
another
it'll
time.
be a different episode. Okay, all right.
We're pretty good. I think we're good. We hit a lot of things.
Okay.
We actually have to sell real estate. We're very
that
busy.
is our part-time gig.
We're very busy, and I certainly should be calling people and calling people back, selling homes, slanging homes,
Slanging them.
Right. So check out the link for the operations manual.
Yep.
Develop systems and processes. Look
Please.
into Redfin's buyer program.
Yeah.
Educate yourself. I'll educate myself and see how they're going to do this with the MLS rules. And let's stir things up.
Yeah.
Stir things up.
Yeah. Please comment on the post on Facebook about this episode and your opinion on the Redfin and Keller Williams profit share conversation that we had earlier. I'd love to hear what people think about it.
And if someone has information we don't have on that,
please share.
Please share.
Totally.
I want to have an open dialogue about this because I may not have the same perspective as you.
Totally.
Peace out, Margaret.
Peace out. Thank you guys for listening to Finally Clicked.